Dot, 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 dot. Good morning, you lovely, lovely people. How are you doing? Today we're going to be covering a word of encouragement from 43. No, not President 43, from 1943. We're going to cover a word of encouragement from 1943. We're going to be talking about the first weather report on Mars, a failed mudslinging attempt by Wix. Quick Bitcoin price, just because you're curious. But first, before we do anything, you know what we're doing. Good morning, my lovelies. We're going to cover a morning cup of gratitude. What are you grateful for? How are you starting your day? Are you starting your day motivated? Are you starting your day inspired? Are you starting your day ignited? Well, if you're not and you're popping by, that's what we're doing together here, right now. So first, grab a warm cup of tea, grab a warm cup of coffee. I'll wait for like 30 seconds. And we're going to talk about what you're grateful for. Go ahead and tell me in the comments, what are you absolutely most grateful for today? Let's do this. Man, I cannot tell you again this week how grateful I am for my workouts. This week, I've actually managed to do all my workouts except last night's workout. I kind of crashed pretty hard. We had a long day. But I was able to get out and get my running in, get my plyometrics in, get my jump ropes in, and that makes me feel so much better. And I'm noticing a huge difference in my body already. So I'm massively grateful for getting back in the habit of working out. And I'm super happy and grateful. Hang on. For this powerful book that's making a huge difference in my life right now. I'm going to share it with you. This is my quiet time book, right? So like you guys know, I study a lot. I'm reading a lot. I'm learning a lot at all times. But right now in my quiet time, my sacred development, Living Buddha, Living Christ by Thich Nhat Hanh. This has got to be my favorite work he goes by Tay. There's a bunch of books on my shelf. Here's a Thich Nhat Hanh book. It's a tiny little book like that. We've got a bunch of them floating around the house, but this one, Living Buddha, Living Christ, and it's a reconciliation between Buddhism and Christianity, which I just deeply appreciate in the spirit of connecting with more people. So I'm grateful for that book. In my book study this morning, what are you grateful for? Listen, there's 4 of you crazy people floating around. 6, 5, 3, 5. There's so many of you guys out there. What are you grateful for this morning? I want to hear it from you. And let's talk about other news. News that elevates you. We're going to take you through the solar system for a quick moment. Yes, the first weather report on Mars. The first weather report on Mars comes from the Jezero crater. Hey, listen, I'm throwing these phrases out at you. And you know, when you were a kid and they're like, okay, name the crater, name a crater on the moon. And you're like, oh man, well, isn't there something like a Sea of Tranquility? And we keep this stuff somewhere in the back of our brain. But if I said the name Paris, or if I said Rome or Naples, you're like, I know where that is. In our lifetime, you will be familiar with terms like Jezero crater. Where's it at? Probably a likely landing base for some of the early Mars colonists, which will happen in our lifetime. So the first weather report comes from Jezero crater. It's apparently a breezy, cold morning as its wind is sweeping through Mars. This information is coming to us from one of the sensors called the MEDA, M-E-D-A, the Mars Environmental Dynamics Analyzer. It provides air and ground temperature, relative humidity, radiation readings, which on nearly every other planet in our solar system, which makes Earth such a spectacular place to be, but radiation is so important to understand in space and on every other planet because of how their atmosphere is treated. Obviously, pressure and wind speed and direction. Now, in the first weather report, today's not the very first, but in the very, very first weather report that the MEDA, the Mars Environmental Dynamics Analyzer, reported a negative 4 degrees Fahrenheit, which, believe it or not, is doable. If you've ever had researchers in Antarctica, they've found a way to survive in that, except a few minutes later, it dropped to 14 degrees Fahrenheit, negative 14 degrees Fahrenheit. And at its most extreme, it has recorded negative 115 degrees Fahrenheit. Now that's pretty chilly. That's beyond what most reasonable humans are going to be enduring. The fastest wind gusts it's reported from the Jezero crater has been about 22 miles an hour. Now, why does this matter? Why does it matter to you, me, or any Spark citizen? Well, for Spark citizens, it matters because it keeps our creative imaginations open, right? Like what's going on other worlds? Like we know for a fact that's what's going on in other worlds. But it's also really important because the Ingenuity helicopter is about to take off on our first flight on the surface of Mars. Probably, I think it's going to happen this weekend. So if you care to learn more, I'm dropping the link right there. Not just about the weather on other planets, but creative imagination of what's going on in our entire solar system. It made me think of another article I read that there's another group that's calling us to actually consider terraforming Venus. Venus is a hellscape for a lot of terms. Mercury, Venus, it's closer to the sun. But comparably, it's actually closer to Earth's pressure, gravity, as well as water-based. There's water on the planet. So the temperatures are crazy. Look it up. But if we terraform it just a little bit, we might be able to colonize Venus sooner. And fun fact, Venus is closer to Earth on average than Mars is. Venus is considered the sister of Earth. Mars is considered the brother of Earth. Just fun facts. Why do we care? To keep our creative imagination spinning on what is possible for you and I, but also what's going on in the world of space technology. So that's our first piece of other news. And our second piece of other news, man, Wix, mudslinging is not a good look on you. Let's talk about it. Yes, Wix, the website development or website building platform, Wix, sent out a series of headphones. And if we back up a little bit, there are influencers in the website and web design and web hosting space. You can find them mostly on Twitter, but in a lot of other places. And a lot of them started receiving a box in the mail of Bose headphones. And these Bose headphones, they opened them up and there was a QR code and it was a letter signed WP, which in our world is WordPress. Signed WordPress. Well, a lot of these influencers thought, wow, we're going to put on these headphones and maybe learn about the features of WordPress and maybe learn about some of the dynamics of WordPress. But as soon as they scanned the QR code, they realized the message came up from Wix. And they thought, well, that's a weird bait and switch, but okay, maybe they're going to teach me about Wix. The video began to play, and it was an absolutely tasteless series of videos portraying WordPress as an alcoholic, abusive father in the middle of a therapy session with its insecure, depressed son who's a web developer. And it turned into a very bizarre series of communications between these influencers and Wix asking, what are you trying to say here? And obviously it was a mudslinging campaign, but it was poorly executed. Some people liken it to the Mac versus PC. Hey, I'm a Mac. Hey, I'm a PC. But it just came off really, really odd. You're welcome to Google some of those. But the founder of WordPress obviously came out and had a response to them. And short of people, basically, Wix actually stole original WordPress code to launch Wix, and they've since evolved from there. But it was a very bizarre, tasteless interaction with another website company that the influencers now who were even on the fence are swinging, maybe not back to WordPress per se, but other platforms, because it really shows when someone lashes out like that in your own life, you know that they're dealing with something. And I think that's happening with Wix as well. I dropped the link there so you can actually see mudslinging gone wrong. There are ways that you could probably talk about your competitors to compare your benefits over theirs, but mudslinging never really looks good on anybody. Come on now. We have difficult enough weeks as it is. Who needs to see someone else's mudslinging? So anyways, I've dropped the link there. You can see how kind of Wix is falling flat with its marketing or influence campaign. And you can also see the poise with which not just the WordPress community, but other web design community influencers kind of respond in a level-headed way, and actually encouraged me that those in our space, those in the web design space, those in the internet technology space are actually a lot more level-headed than some like to think. Well, that's our bit of other news, weather on Mars, and what Wix is doing, a little goofy, but let's talk about encouragement from 1943. Let's talk about it. You know, I don't know about you guys, but I have had a busy week. Not a train wreck. Jared jumps in. Jared Yates jumps in and says, I'm hugely grateful for how generous you always are in sharing your bookshelf. Living Buddha, Living Christ sounds like a great way to connect unlikely people. Beautiful concept. It's a phenomenal book. And Jared, to bounce off of that a little bit, I did another study in my early 20s about samurai, and I was intrigued at samurai, but I was convicted that, well, samurai values don't line up with Christian values. And so I found a book written by a samurai, written in the early 1900s when Japan outlawed samurai. Some of the samurai committed harikari or seppuku or ritual suicide as they were no longer needed by the emperor. But some of them took jobs and thought it was a continuation of their samurai training to get involved in the political and economic engine that the emperor was trying to cultivate. And this one actually ended up being the ambassador to America. Do I have his book right here? No, I'll have to find it for you, but I believe it was called Bushido, and it was a apologetic, kind of like Living Buddha, Living Christ, an apologetic between Shinto Buddhism, Samurai Buddhism, and Westernist belief and ideologies, and basically Christianity. This ambassador even went so far as to actually marry a Quaker to illustrate that you could bridge the gap between the East and West and make an impact in the world by bridging these cultures. So Bushido was another one. And so this one, Living Buddha, Living Christ, is a very similar arc I'm trying to make in my own personal life. So thank you for those kind words, man. I really appreciate it, dude. So this morning, thinking about a crazy week. I know the Yates have had a crazy week making big decisions on their business. We met earlier this week. I know that Carrie Pate, who I met for coffee this week, we kind of connected in person for the first time in real life. She shared some things with me. And this weekend is a big weekend for her. And this weekend is very busy. This week is very busy for Marissa. Spark Explorer. Marissa's about to take her team of powerhouse ladies, just happen to be a group of awesome gals, but just powerhouse team doing 87 miles on the Arizona Trail. A lot of prep for that. Marissa was working double time here, clearing her deck here as well as prepping for her trip. I know that we were trying to put a property deal together while also juggling and moving into a new niche for Spark Sites. I know that a lot of you have had some pretty intense weeks. I know that our intense week, a few intense days, a lot's been going on. I feel like a lot of you out there just need a word of encouragement from 1943. Now, I want you to bear with me on this real quick. It's a poem, but it is one of the most stirring poems I've ever had, I've ever read, and it stays with me. And as soon as I say it, it kind of gives me chills to think, and I'm going to give this poem to you because it's a word of encouragement on adulting. You've had a long week. No, the week's not over. You've got a strong day that you need to give it your all in. We need to give it our all. We need to end our commitments strong. We need to end our week strong. Some of you will be working on the weekend. If you're anything like me, I still do nearly a half day, if not nearly a 3/4 day on Saturdays myself. So we're not done yet, but the lion's share of this week you have faced, you have tackled. I'm proud of you. I'm proud of how hard you've really gone this week. So let me give you this gift of a poem by one of my favorite poets, Rudyard Kipling's If. If you can keep your head when all about you are losing theirs and blaming it on you. If you can trust yourself when all men doubt you, but make allowance for their doubting too. If you can wait and not be tired by waiting, or being lied about, don't deal in lies, or being hated, don't give way to hating, yet don't look too good nor talk too wise. If you can dream and not make dreams your master, if you can think and not make thoughts your aim, if you could meet with triumph and disaster and treat those two imposters just the same, if you can bear to hear the truth you've spoken, twisted by knaves to make a trap for fools, or watch the things you gave your life to broken and stoop to build them up with worn out tools, if you can make one heap of all your winnings and risk it on one turn of pitch and toss and lose and start again at your beginnings and never breathe a word about your loss, if you can force your heart and nerve and sinew to serve your turn long after they're gone, and so hold on when there is nothing left in you except the will which says to them, hold on. If you can talk with crowds and keep your virtue, or walk with kings nor lose your common touch, if neither foes nor loving friends can hurt you, if all men count with you but none too much, if you can fill the unforgiving minute with 60 seconds worth of distance run, yours is the earth and everything that's in it. And, which is more, you'll be a man, my son. If, by Rudyard Kipling, a stirring encouragement to all of you. I know that the masculine pronouns were used in that poem when it was written, but it applies to all of us. If you can hold on and give 60 seconds worth of distance run, the earth is yours and everything in it. And what's more, you'll be a man, my son. A poem to the hard work you've been doing and the hard work left in front of you to accomplish your dreams. Yes, Jared says, yes, if, and I think this might be Jared in its tone. Timeless classic. Love it. I don't know who that is. Who is that? I'm not entirely sure. Good morning, Carrie. Carrie dropped by and liked the show today. I really appreciate you guys. You have done a great week. For those of you who've got a long weekend ahead of you, stay strong. Keep going. And the word encouragement, for those of you who don't know, comes from the French encourage, and it means take heart. Take heart in the goodness in you. Take heart in the goodness of people around you. Take heart in the good work that you're doing. Enjoy yourself and congratulations on a powerful week. Oh, Patrick. Good morning, Patrick. Yes, fantastic poem, Patrick. Have a great day, you guys. Remember, if you need any help, visit us at stateofthespark.com. But remember the mission, igniting lives of explosive significance, starting with your own. Have a fantastic day.